My family laughed at my husband and refused to accept us at Christmas. What happened next destroyed them completely. This happened last year, and I'm finally ready to tell this story. It's long, it's messy, and honestly, the ending is more satisfying than anything I could have imagined. My family thought they could treat my husband like garbage and get away with it. They were so terribly wrong. This is perhaps the best story of karma you'll read today. Let me start with some context. I'm Rebecca, a 29-year-old woman living in Portland, and I work as a high school English teacher, making about $58,000 a year. I know that doesn't sound impressive to most people, but I love what I do. My husband Daniel is a 31-year-old social worker who makes around $52,000 annually. Combined, we make a decent middle-class income, we live modestly, we save responsibly, and we're genuinely happy together. We've been married for 3 years, and honestly, he's the best thing that ever happened to me. But my family? They've never accepted him. Not once. Not ever. Let me paint you a picture of who they are and why this revenge was so incredibly satisfying. While I was growing up as the quiet, studious daughter who cared more about books and meaningful work than material possessions, my older sister Madison was the golden child. Madison competed in pageants, dated wealthy men, and married a hedge fund manager named Preston, who supposedly makes around $850,000 a year. My parents, Richard and Caroline, made it crystal clear from day one who their favorite child was. I was just the disappointment who chose a noble but poor profession. When Madison turned 21, she got a brand new Mercedes C-Class with a giant red bow on top. I'm talking about a $42,000 car for someone who had never worked a real job in her entire life. The whole neighborhood gathered to watch her scream and jump around like she'd won the lottery. She posted it all over social media, calling it the best day ever and praising her amazing parents. When I turned 23 and graduated with my teaching degree, I got a $500 check and a lecture about fiscal responsibility. That's it. No car, no celebration, just criticism about my career choice. My parents paid for Madison's entire wedding, which cost over $95,000. Ice sculptures, a 12-piece orchestra, designer wedding dress, destination bachelorette party in the Bahamas, the works. When Daniel and I got married, we had a small ceremony in a local park with about 40 guests, and we paid for everything ourselves. It cost us $8,000 total, and it was perfect. Intimate, meaningful, and filled with people who actually cared about us. My parents contributed exactly nothing, and complained the entire time about how embarrassing it was that their daughter was having such a modest wedding. Madison lives in a massive 6-bedroom house in the most exclusive neighborhood in town. She drives a Range Rover and posts Instagram stories every 6 weeks about trips to Paris, Bali, the Amalfi Coast, and Santorini. Her social media became this carefully curated display of wealth that honestly made me feel embarrassed for her. Meanwhile, Daniel and I live in a cozy 2-bedroom house that we bought as a fixer-upper. We drive reliable but older cars, a 2012 Honda Accord and a 2014 Subaru Outback. We take one modest vacation a year, usually camping or visiting national parks. And my family never, ever lets us forget how much less successful they think we are. Madison never misses an opportunity to make passive-aggressive comments about our lifestyle choices. She says things like, "Rebecca, when are you going to get a real career that actually pays well instead of wasting your education?" Or, "Maybe if Daniel had more ambition, you wouldn't have to live in that neighborhood." She says this while showing off whatever new designer handbag she bought that week. The worst part is watching my parents nod along as if her criticism is valid and helpful. But here's what makes this whole story so much more satisfying. My grandmother Helen built a successful boutique hotel chain from absolutely nothing. Starting with a single bed and breakfast she ran by herself, working 18-hour days, 7 days a week. After decades of hard work, smart investments, and treating people fairly, she became the owner of 12 boutique hotels across the Pacific Northwest. Her net worth is somewhere between $15 and $18 million. And she's always been passionate about teaching family values like hard work, humility, treating people with dignity, and earning what you deserve through merit, not handouts. Somehow, those lessons only stuck with me. The rest of my family treats Grandma Helen like she's their personal ATM. They all live completely extravagant lives funded entirely by her generosity, and then have the audacity to look down on me for being self-sufficient and independent. Every year, Grandma Helen organizes this elaborate family Christmas gathering to bring everyone together and maintain family bonds. She pays for everything because she believes family unity is worth any cost. Last year's trip was supposed to be at some fancy ski resort in Colorado, and I was looking forward to it because work had been absolutely brutal with standardized testing season, and I desperately needed a break from the constant stress. Grandma had booked everything months in advance because she wanted this trip to be extra special for reasons I didn't understand at the time. The Christmas trip was planned for a luxury ski resort in Aspen that charges $400 per night for basic rooms, which included $300 dinners, $400 spa treatments, and ski passes that cost more than most people spend on groceries in a month. Daniel and I drove up from Portland after I finished my last day of school before winter break. We arrived at the resort around 7 p.m. on Friday evening. The place was absolutely ridiculous in the most ostentatious way possible. Exposed timber beams that probably cost more than our house. Natural stone masonry that looked like it belonged in a museum. Enormous fireplaces with chimneys that could probably fit a small person inside. People walked around in ski outfits that easily cost $6,000 per set, casually discussing their plans for helicopter skiing and private mountain tours. I felt slightly out of place in my basic Columbia winter jacket and simple snow pants, but I figured nobody would notice or care. I was there to spend time with my family, not to compete in some fashion show. We walked up to the front desk with our simple duffel bags. I gave my name to the attendant, and I waited while she typed frantically on her computer, looking increasingly confused. She started frowning and typing more aggressively. After several minutes with a furrowed brow and increasingly frustrated expression, she called over her supervisor, who repeated the exact same process with identical results. "I'm so sorry, ma'am, but I can't find any reservation under your name in our system. Let me try different spellings and see if it's registered under a family member's name." That's when I heard Madison's voice behind me, and I knew something was wrong just from the tone. There was this weird theatrical quality to it that I remembered from childhood whenever she was about to cause trouble. "Oh my God, Rebecca, you actually made it. I wasn't sure if you'd be able to get time off from your little teaching job." She sounded way too cheerful, like she was performing for some imaginary audience. When I turned around, there she was in a designer ski outfit that probably cost more than I spend on clothes in an entire year. A clearly custom-fitted jacket, pants with metallic threading, and boots that looked like they came from a fashion magazine rather than belonging on an actual mountain. She had this strange smile on her face that I recognized from childhood, the exact same expression she made before telling Mom and Dad that I'd supposedly done something wrong to get me in trouble. The desk staff kept frantically searching the computer while other guests started gathering behind us, clearly annoyed at the delay. The tension was palpably growing as wealthy people in expensive clothes waited for this problem to be resolved. Madison walked closer and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "How strange that there's no room reserved for you. I wonder how that happened." She came closer and lowered her voice to a whisper, which she undoubtedly thought was appropriate. "Actually, Rebecca, I had a long conversation with Grandma about sleeping arrangements for this vacation. We agreed that we only needed rooms for the real family this year." She raised her voice again. "You know, people who actually contribute something valuable to family gatherings instead of just showing up expecting handouts." My stomach completely dropped as the implications hit me full force. "What are you talking about, Madison? Grandma personally invited everyone." "Well, We have the presidential suite for the family core. Preston and I and our twin daughters. Mom and Dad have a gorgeous corner room with mountain views." She paused dramatically, clearly loving every moment. "I guess there just wasn't enough space for everyone who wanted to come. You understand how expensive these places are, right?" The lobby was completely silent, except for the crackling fireplace, and I looked around to see my parents sitting in leather armchairs near the main fireplace. When I made direct eye contact with them, they looked away like cowards. Preston was near the front desk, scrolling through his phone like nothing was happening, and their twin 7-year-old daughters were running through the lobby, completely oblivious to the adult drama unfolding around them. Madison continued her carefully rehearsed performance, saying, "Let's be realistic here. You couldn't afford to stay at a property like this on your little teacher salary. Maybe there's a Holiday Inn or a Motel 6 somewhere down the mountain." She actually started laughing softly as she said this, like the idea of me staying at a budget hotel was the funniest thing she'd ever imagined. Several other guests were now openly watching our family drama, and the desk clerk looked mortified, probably wondering if she should call security. The supervisor was pretending to handle important paperwork while clearly listening to every word of this embarrassing conversation. "Madison, what is happening here? Grandma invited me personally and confirmed my attendance." "Oh, sweetie." Grandma understood perfectly when I explained the whole situation in detail to her. "We need to focus on the individuals who are genuinely important to the family's future prosperity." She gestured dramatically toward Preston, who still hadn't looked up from his phone. "I mean, Preston's company just secured a $22 million hedge fund deal last month. That's real success. That's the kind of achievement we should be celebrating and supporting as a family." Madison had purposefully and meticulously orchestrated this entire situation to humiliate me in front of complete strangers, to prove some twisted point about family hierarchy and her supposed superiority. In that exact moment, something clicked in my head. This wasn't an innocent misunderstanding or a computer error. I stood there for about 20 seconds, trying to process what was happening, while Madison looked at my face with evident satisfaction, probably hoping I'd beg for help or make some kind of desperate scene that would embarrass me even further. My parents kept avoiding eye contact like the cowards they'd always been. Instead of feeling anger or hurt like Madison clearly wanted, I felt this strange sensation of crystal clear clarity. Preston continued acting like nothing was happening. The other hotel guests were getting increasingly restless with the public family breakdown. It was like puzzle pieces that had been scattered for years, suddenly clicked together to create a picture I'd never seen before. "You know what, Madison? You're absolutely right about everything." Her confident smile faltered slightly as confusion crossed her face. "I'm sorry. What did you just say?" "You're absolutely correct. I should get out of here immediately." I pulled out my phone and opened a rideshare app with deliberate calm. "I wish you and the real family an absolutely lovely Christmas together." She looked genuinely confused because this clearly wasn't the reaction she'd carefully planned. "Wait, that's it? You're just giving up? Without even trying to fix this?" "No. I'm making a conscious decision based on recent facts. Have fun explaining to Grandma tomorrow morning why I won't be at the Christmas breakfast. I'm sure when I tell Grandma how inappropriate and theatrical you were acting in this scenario, she'll understand perfectly." I turned one more time and gave her the widest, most genuine smile I'd had in months. "I'm absolutely convinced she'll understand everything correctly." The drive down the mountain gave me plenty of time to think clearly for the first time in years. Madison had made a crucial mistake that was about to destroy her entire fake life. She assumed I was still the same defenseless little sister she used to torment when we were kids. She had no idea about my position or what I knew about the family's real financial situation. Here's what Madison didn't know about why her little stunt was about to go terribly, catastrophically wrong. First, I've been helping Grandma with her business finances for the past 5 years. I have an MBA in business administration that I completed online while teaching full-time. Grandma calls me whenever she has questions about investment strategies, tax planning, retirement accounts, or financial analysis. And I knew more about her financial concerns and future plans than anyone else in the family combined. I helped set up her online banking and organized her investment accounts and digitized decades of paper records. I have legitimate access to financial information that would make Madison's head spin if she knew what I was seeing. Second, and most important for what was about to happen, Grandma had been growing increasingly concerned about the family's spending habits and sense of entitlement. She'd made numerous pointed comments over the years about people living beyond their means and expecting handouts, instead of working their way through life. And she'd expressed deep worry about what happens to the money she worked so hard for after she's gone, and whether anyone in the family understands its value. I called Grandma from the airport while I waited for my ride back to Portland. "Rebecca, honey, what happened? Aren't you supposed to be at the resort with everyone?" I told her the truth. No drama, no emotional manipulation, no exaggeration, just the facts. How Madison had purposefully excluded me from the room reservations. Her specific comments about real family members, the public humiliation in front of other hotel guests, and my parents' cowardly refusal to defend their own daughter. The silence on the other end of the line lasted about 45 seconds, which felt like forever. When Grandma finally spoke again, her voice had gone from warm and concerned to ice-cold and resolute. "Well, I believe it's time for certain members of this family to learn about the real consequences of their behavior. Grandma, you don't need to do anything dramatic. I'm fine, honestly. I'll just spend Christmas at home. Rebecca, can you come to my office Monday morning, bright and early? I have some extremely serious business matters to discuss with you. Bring your laptop and whatever financial analysis software you have." Monday morning, I'm sitting in Grandma's office, which looks like a museum of American business success. Dark wood paneling on every wall, leather chairs that have probably been there since the 1970s, and dozens of awards and photographs from 40 years in the hospitality industry. That's when I realized Madison had just made the biggest mistake of her entire life. Grandma looked exhausted, but determined, reminding me why she'd been so successful for so many decades. "Rebecca, I want to know exactly how much money I've given to your parents and your sister over the years. Every dollar, gift, loan, and emergency payment. Can you help me compile that material into a detailed analysis?" That's where my financial analysis skills came in handy in ways I never imagined. I spent the following week going through bank statements, transfer records, tax documents, canceled checks, and digital payment records. Grandma gave me complete access to her personal accounts, business records, and financial files going back 20 years. And what I discovered was absolutely unbelievable and worse than I could have possibly imagined. Here's what I found over the last decade. Madison received $67,000 for her wedding, which she claimed was barely enough to cover basic expenses. But I found receipts showing they spent over $95,000 total. She received $45,000 as a down payment gift for their house, followed by another $38,000 3 years later when they decided to add a home theater and wine cellar. For the past 6 years, she's been receiving $5,500 per month to help with the children's expenses and cost of living adjustments, totaling over $390,000 in direct monthly support payments. But there's so much more. Emergency loans that were never repaid, $58,000 for a business opportunity that never materialized, private school tuition for the twins, $32,000 per year for the past 3 years, luxury vacation funding, probably another $75,000 over the years. My parents, who'd been working the same system for years, weren't any better. They'd received $52,000 for various investment schemes, more than most people spend annually on cars and birthday and Christmas gifts, probably another $80,000 over the years. They'd also receive funding for jewelry purchases, furniture subsidies, and home renovations. Grandma paid off their $130,000 mortgage outright when they claimed to be struggling with retirement planning, and she'd been supplementing their retirement income with $4,200 per month for the past 7 years because their savings were insufficient for the lifestyle they deserved. Over $350,000 in retirement support alone. The list continued, with home repairs, medical bills, car payments, insurance premiums, emergency expenses, and unexpected costs. In the last decade, these people had received well over $1.2 million in direct gifts, excluding smaller presents, dinners, vacations, or other perks that are harder to quantify. Meanwhile, I'd only asked Grandma for help once in my adult life, a $4,000 loan when Daniel's car broke down, and we didn't have enough in our emergency fund. We paid it back with interest within 3 months and never asked for anything else again. But this is where the investigation got really interesting and revealed just how fake their lifestyle was. I decided to dig deep into Madison and Preston's actual financial situation using public record databases I have access to through my MBA work. I know how to read financial documents, court filings, and business records in ways most people don't. And what I discovered was absolutely shocking. Their house is mortgaged to the absolute maximum limit. They owe $920,000 on a property that's currently worth about $850,000 in the present market. Both of their luxury cars are leased, meaning they're paying monthly fees for vehicles they'll never own. Madison's credit card debt is completely absurd. I found at least 17 different accounts with significant balances, totaling over $135,000. According to public business documents filed with the state, Preston's hedge fund has been struggling for the past 3 years, with 2 major clients pulling their investments due to underperformance and questionable trading strategies. Remember how Madison bragged about the $22 million deal and Preston's $850,000 annual income? His biggest client terminated their contract in October after discovering unauthorized trading and failure to meet promised returns. The fund had defaulted on 3 significant business loans and was essentially operating on borrowed time and credit extensions. They're living a completely fraudulent lifestyle funded entirely by massive debt and Grandma's monthly checks. When I presented Grandma with all this information in a detailed written report, she sat in silence for about 20 minutes, slowly flipping through the documents with increasing anger. Without that $5,500 per month, they'd be filing for bankruptcy within 90 days. Finally, she looked up at me with a peculiar expression and murmured, "Very intriguing. Very fascinating indeed. I think it's time for some people to learn what reality feels like when consequences arrive." 4 weeks after the ski resort incident, Grandma Zhao Ji at a mandatory family meeting at her house. Everyone was informed that the purpose was to discuss important financial planning and estate matters, and attendance was absolutely necessary for anyone who wanted to be included in her will. I arrived early to help her prepare what would be the most satisfying presentation of my entire life. She'd printed everything: bank statements, transfer records, loan documents, property records, business filings, credit reports, everything organized impeccably in folders with each family member's name written on the cover in her careful handwriting. Madison arrived 30 minutes late in her Tesla Model X, wearing another ridiculously expensive outfit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. And she looked genuinely irritated at having to be there, like it was an inconvenience to her busy schedule of spending other people's money and posting about it online. Preston looked uncomfortable from the moment he walked in. I think he was starting to realize their financial situation was deteriorating rapidly. My parents arrived acting like nothing had happened at Christmas, with no apology, acknowledgement, or explanation for their cowardly behavior. Business as usual. They probably thought this meeting was to discuss increased allowances or inheritance details. Grandma started the meeting quite formally. "I've invited everyone here today because I'm conducting a comprehensive evaluation of my financial support to this family over the past 15 years. Rebecca assisted me in gathering truly revealing material, and I believe it's time we had a genuinely honest discussion about money, entitlement, and family values." She distributed the folders with theatrical precision, and I watched Madison's face as she opened hers and started reading the numbers printed in black and white. The blood literally drained from her cheeks when she realized the magnitude of what she was seeing. Grandma continued in her most professional tone. I want each of you to carefully review those statistics and then explain to me why you believe you're entitled to this level of ongoing financial support. Madison immediately went into full victim mode. Grandma, you know raising children is so expensive nowadays. Preston and I work so hard to support our family, and with the economy being so unstable and unpredictable. Madison, Grandma's voice cut, through her sobs like a scalpel through butter. According to these documents, your husband allegedly makes $850,000 per year. Please explain in detail why you need an additional $66,000 annually from me to maintain your lifestyle. Well, the house payment is really high because we wanted the girls to grow up in a good neighborhood, and activities and sports, and we have other necessary expenses that you wouldn't understand. You decided to buy a house you couldn't afford. You decided to lease luxury cars instead of purchase reliable transportation. You chose to enroll your children in expensive private programs instead of excellent public schools. These were your intentional decisions made with the expectation that I would continue financing your lifestyle choices forever. My parents tried to intervene and deflect attention. Mom, you know how much we appreciate everything you've done for us over the years, but retirement planning is getting harder with inflation and medical expenses. You retired at 63 knowing I'd supplement your income forever. You made no attempt to save adequately for retirement because you expected me to handle all your financial obligations. You took my generosity for granted, not as a gift. The tension in the air was so thick you could cut it with a knife, and Madison was starting to panic as she realized things weren't going as planned. Grandma, what are you trying to say? Are you threatening us? I'm saying this takes effect immediately. All financial support to this family is being permanently terminated. The eruption was instantaneous, expected, and extremely entertaining to watch. Madison started her fake crying performance with crocodile tears and theatrical wailing. My parents started talking feverishly over each other about their limited income and medical expenses and retirement security, while Preston sat there looking like he wanted to disappear through the floor. But Grandma wasn't finished delivering her verdict. Additionally, I'm deeply disappointed and personally insulted by how Rebecca was treated during our Christmas trip. The purposeful exclusion and public humiliation were absolutely wrong, and it demonstrated exactly who you've become when you think nobody's watching. Madison's fake tears quickly transformed into genuine anger. This is about her? You're really doing this because of her? She's a grown woman. She should be able to take care of herself without relying on Grandma like a baby. Yes, Madison. She should be able to take care of herself, and she does. She's never asked me for ongoing help. She paid off her student loans on her own. She lives within her means. She treats family members with decency and respect. Perhaps you should consider learning from her example instead of ridiculing her. Oh, please. She's a boring loser who spends her days looking at books with teenagers and has no ambition. Preston makes 4 times her household income. We're the successful members of this family. We're the ones who matter. That's when Grandma pulled out one more folder with a small smile. Actually, Madison, speaking of Preston's tremendous success, she looked directly at Preston, who had gone completely pale. Rebecca, could you explain what your financial study indicated regarding the hedge fund business? This is probably the moment when any decent person should feel terrible for them, but I didn't. Not even close. They'd been asking for this for years. I opened my laptop and pulled up the extensive financial study I'd prepared specifically for this moment. Well, based on public records, business documents, and financial filings, Preston's hedge fund is essentially bankrupt and operating on life support for months. Preston's complexion turned a sickly greenish color as he realized his fictional empire was about to crumble in front of everyone. Rebecca, you had absolutely no right to investigate my private business affairs. Actually, I had every right This is all publicly available information in state corporate records and court filings. Your fund has defaulted on 5 major business loans totaling over $3.8 million in the past 3 years. Your largest client terminated their contract in October, citing unauthorized trading, underperformance, and breach of fiduciary duty. You haven't closed a new client worth over $100,000 since last summer. Madison was alternating her gaze between me and Preston, like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. The fabricated world she'd created on social media was collapsing in real time. I proceeded with deliberate precision. Your personal finances are worse than your business situation. Your house is underwater by approximately $70,000. You have $135,000 in credit card debt spread across 17 different accounts. Your car lease payments alone are $2,900 monthly, which is more than most families pay for housing. The silence in the room was terrible, and you could hear the pendulum clock ticking in the corner. Grandma spoke with apparent delight. "Rebecca, what did your investigation indicate about Madison's personal spending habits?" According to credit card statements, bank records, and social media activity analysis, I estimate Madison spends approximately $6,800 per month on clothing, accessories, beauty treatments, spa visits, and entertainment. That's more than triple what the average American family spends on housing. And that excludes money she spends on vacations and luxury experiences. Madison completely lost control. "You're a complete psychopath. Who gave you authority to go through my personal life like a creepy stalker? This is insane. You did this, Madison, when you chose to publicly humiliate me and exclude me from family gatherings. When you made it clear you considered me inferior to your supposedly successful spouse. When you treated me like garbage in front of strangers. Actions have consequences, and you're about to discover how those consequences manifest." Grandma stood up slowly with the dignity of a woman who built an empire through hard work. "I believe we've covered everything we needed to discuss today. All of you have extremely important decisions to make regarding your futures. Rebecca, could you please stay here for a few minutes? I need to speak with you privately about something very important." My parents and Madison's family left the house in complete chaos. Madison was screaming about how everything was unfair and how I'd destroyed the family with my erratic behavior. Preston looked like he was going to vomit, and my parents looked completely devastated. After they left, Grandma sat down and gave me a warm smile for the first time in weeks. "Rebecca, I've been thinking a lot lately about updating my will, and my estate planning attorney believes it's definitely time to make some significant changes to reflect my current understanding of family values and responsibility." 9 months have passed since that family meeting, and the results have been absolutely spectacular, exceeding my most optimistic expectations. In May, Preston's hedge fund filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. They lost the house to foreclosure and had to move into a small 2-bedroom rental apartment in a much less desirable part of town. Both luxury vehicles were repossessed within 6 weeks because they couldn't make the lease payments, and Madison had to get her first real job in over a decade working as a receptionist at a dental office for $19 per hour. My parents had to sell their house and move into a tiny 1-bedroom apartment in a senior living community they could actually afford on Social Security alone. Dad came out of retirement to work part-time as a greeter at a big box store, and Mom got a job as a cashier at a grocery store making $16.50 an hour. Both of them are completely miserable and constantly worried about money for the first time in decades. Madison's social media completely disappeared. She stopped posting entirely because she can no longer afford the lifestyle she was pretending to have. The twins had to transfer from their expensive private school to public school, which Madison complained about constantly until she realized nobody cared about her problems anymore. Preston took a job as a financial advisor at a small firm making $67,000 a year, a massive pay cut from his previous lifestyle, and he looks perpetually stressed and aged about 10 years in just 9 months. But here's the best part that makes this whole story absolutely perfect. They all started calling me urgently, begging for help, starting with my parents approximately 4 months after the meeting. "Rebecca, sweetheart, we're so sorry about what happened at Christmas. We should have protected you from Madison. We understand now how wrong we were to treat you that way. Could you please talk to Grandma for us? We're struggling to pay these bills and we don't know what to do." I told them I'd consider helping if they sent me a handwritten letter detailing how they'd treated me over the years and taking complete responsibility for their actions and decisions. That was 3 months ago. I'm still waiting for that letter. Preston. I need to stay consistent with the names. Preston contacted me about 3 months ago. "Look, Rebecca, I understand we got off on the wrong foot, and Madison deeply regrets how she handled the Christmas situation. She feels terrible about everything. Is there anything you could do to help us? Maybe a small loan could help us get back on our feet. I promise I'll pay you back with interest once business returns to normal." I laughed and hung up on him immediately, but the most delightful call came from Madison herself, approximately 8 weeks ago, and I recorded it because I knew this was coming. "Please, Rebecca, I know I made a terrible mistake. I was completely wrong about everything. I was awful to you, and I sincerely apologize. But I'm in a really difficult situation. The girls keep asking why we had to move, why Mommy has to work now, why we can't go on vacation, and why their friends can't come to our apartment. I'll do anything. I'll apologize publicly on social media. I'll admit I was wrong about everything. I'll tell everyone you were right. Just help us get back to normal. Madison, I only have one question for you, and I want you to think carefully before answering. Anything. Ask me whatever you want. When you excluded me from the hotel reservation and told everyone it was exclusively for family, didn't you imagine how that would make me feel as your sister?" There was absolute silence for almost 30 seconds. "Did you think about the fact that I was your sister and deserved basic respect and decency regardless of how much money I made?" "Rebecca, I was just trying to—" "No, Madison. You humiliated me because you considered me weak and pathetic. You assumed I needed you more than you needed me. You believed I'd always be available as a backup plan. You were completely wrong on every single point. Please, Rebecca, I'm literally begging here. I'll get on my knees if you want me to. You know what? You're absolutely right. You are begging me. And you know how that makes me feel? It makes me believe that maybe there's some real justice in the world after all. Unfortunately for you, I learned from the best teacher possible about the consequences of treating people like they're disposable. You taught me that, Madison. You taught me that actions have consequences. So you're really not going to help us at all? After everything? I'm going to help you the exact same way you helped me at that ski resort. I'm going to wish you a lovely life and suggest you find a Holiday Inn somewhere that fits your budget. How does that feel?" I hung up before she could respond, and honestly, it felt better than anything I'd experienced in years. But the story gets even better, because Grandma's changes went far beyond just cutting off their money supply. In July, she called me to her office again with her attorney present. "Rebecca, I want you to know that I've completed a comprehensive revision of my estate plan. I've thought very carefully about who in this family understands the value of hard work, integrity, and treating people with respect." Her attorney slid a folder across the desk to me. "Mrs. Helen has designated you as the primary beneficiary of her estate, including the hotel business, all investment accounts, and personal property. Your parents and sister have been removed entirely from the will. Additionally, she's appointed you as the executive director of the Helen Morrison Family Foundation, which will control the distribution of charitable funds." I sat there in complete shock, unable to process what I was hearing. "Grandma, I don't know what to say. This is too much." It's not too much, Rebecca. It's exactly right. You're the only person in this family who understands what I built and why I built it. You're the only one who never asked for handouts or expected me to fund your life. You worked hard, made sacrifices, lived within your means, and most importantly, you chose a partner based on character rather than income. She smiled warmly. Daniel is a good man. Social workers don't make much money, but they make a real difference in people's lives. He has integrity and compassion, qualities that are worth far more than Preston's fraudulent wealth ever was. I'm proud of who you married, and I'm proud of who you've become. I started crying, genuinely overwhelmed with emotion. Thank you, Grandma. That means everything to me. There's one more thing. She pulled out another document. I'm establishing a trust fund for your future children's education. $500,000 that can only be used for legitimate educational expenses. I want your kids to have opportunities, but I also want them to learn the value of work and earn their way through life just like you did. The attorney added, Your grandmother has also included provisions that if Madison or your parents contest the will, they'll be responsible for all legal fees on both sides, and any remaining inheritance allocation will go entirely to charity. She wants to ensure they can't cause problems after she's gone. It was the most comprehensive protection I could have imagined. Over the following months, word slowly got out to the family about the will, changes. I don't know how they found out. Maybe the attorney's office had a leak, or perhaps Grandma told them herself. The reactions were exactly what you'd expect. My parents showed up at my house unannounced one Saturday morning in September. Daniel answered the door while I was making breakfast. We need to speak with Rebecca immediately. This is a family emergency. Daniel, bless him, stood his ground. If you want to speak with my wife, you can call and schedule a time like respectful, adults. You don't get to show up demanding anything after how you've treated her. This doesn't concern you, Daniel. This is family business. Actually, it concerns me completely, because Rebecca is my family. She's my wife, and I won't let you bully her anymore. She's done nothing wrong, and you owe her years of apologies that you'll probably never give. Now please leave our property. They left, furious, and I watched from the window feeling more loved and protected than I'd ever felt with my biological family. Madison tried a different approach, showing up at my school one afternoon in October. She waited in the parking lot until classes ended and approached me as I walked to my car. She looked terrible, honestly. The expensive clothes were gone, replaced by discount store outfits. Her hair, which used to be professionally colored and styled every 3 weeks, now showed gray roots and looked unwashed. The carefully maintained facade had completely crumbled. Rebecca, please, we need to talk about Grandma's will. This isn't fair. I'm her granddaughter, too. You can't just take everything. Madison, I didn't take anything. Grandma made her own decisions based on how we each chose to live our lives and treat other people. You had the same opportunities I had. You chose differently. But we're family. Family is supposed to help each other. The irony was so thick I almost laughed. Like how you helped me at the ski resort. Like how you've helped me my entire life by making fun of my career, my husband, my choices, and everything about me. That kind of family help? I made a mistake. One mistake. And you're going to punish me forever? Madison, it wasn't one mistake. It was a lifetime of mistakes. Every passive-aggressive comment, every public humiliation, every time you made me feel small and worthless. Every time Mom and Dad chose you over me. Every time you treated Daniel like he was beneath you. Those weren't mistakes. Those were choices. And choices have consequences. So that's it? You're really going to keep everything and leave us with nothing? I'm not keeping anything from you. Grandma is giving her money to someone who shares her values. You had 34 years to show her you understood what mattered. You chose to show her the opposite. I'm sorry you're struggling. I genuinely am. But this is the reality you created." She started crying again, but this time it seemed more genuine than theatrical. "I don't know how to do this. Rebecca, I don't know how to live like this. I've never had to budget or worry about money or work a real job. I'm drowning and I don't know what to do." For just a moment, I felt a tiny bit of sympathy. But then I remembered that ski resort lobby, the humiliation, the cruelty, the satisfaction on her face. "Then I guess you're about to learn some valuable life lessons that most people figure out much earlier. Welcome to the real world, Madison. It's not as glamorous as your Instagram feed, but it's authentic." I got in my car and drove away, leaving her standing in the parking lot. Through my rearview mirror, I saw her collapse onto the curb, sobbing. Part of me felt bad, but a larger part of me remembered every single time she'd made me feel exactly that way. Thanksgiving was interesting this year. Grandma hosted dinner as always, but the guest list was dramatically different. She invited me and Daniel, of course. She also invited Daniel's parents, who are wonderful, humble people. His dad is a retired postal worker, and his mom was an elementary school librarian. They were nervous about the fancy house, but Grandma made them feel completely welcome. She invited some of her longtime employees from the hotels, people who'd been with her for 20 or 30 years, and who she considered extended family. She invited her attorney and his wife. She invited 3 families from Daniel's caseload at work who were struggling and wouldn't have had a proper Thanksgiving otherwise. The house was full of genuine warmth and gratitude and people who appreciated what they had. Madison, Preston, and my parents were not invited. Grandma made that decision clear and explicit. They're welcome to have their own Thanksgiving dinner and think about the choices that brought them to this point. This celebration is for people who understand the meaning of gratitude. During dinner, Grandma stood up to make a toast. "I want to thank everyone here for reminding me what really matters in life. It's not about money or status or material possessions. It's about character, integrity, kindness, and how we treat other people when nobody's watching. Rebecca, Daniel, I'm so proud of both of you and the life you're building together. You represent the very best of what family should be." Everyone raised their glasses, and I looked around the table at these genuine, kind people and realized this was what family was supposed to feel like. Not competition, not judgment, not conditional, love based on income or status. Just acceptance and respect and appreciation for who people actually are. In December, almost exactly 1 year after the ski resort incident, Grandma called me with surprising news. "Rebecca, I've been thinking about that resort where Madison embarrassed you. I did some research and discovered the owner is looking to sell. The property is struggling financially due to poor management. I'm considering purchasing it as an addition to my hotel portfolio, and I'd like you to be involved in the decision." We flew to Colorado together, toured the property, reviewed the financials, and met with the current owner. The resort was indeed struggling, losing money for 3 consecutive years due to outdated systems and lack of investment in maintenance and customer service. Grandma made an offer that was accepted within 2 weeks. By January, we owned the property. Grandma appointed me as the managing director of the acquisition and renovation project. We invested $2.3 million in comprehensive upgrades, new booking systems, renovated rooms, improved staff training, better restaurant options, and enhanced customer service protocols. By March, we'd turned the property around completely. We were profitable within 4 months and booking solid reservations through the next ski season. I was there one weekend in April overseeing some final renovation details when I saw a familiar Tesla Model X in the parking lot. My heart rate increased as I realized Madison must be staying there. I went to the front desk and asked the manager, "Can you tell me if Madison Preston is currently a guest here?" The manager checked the system. "Yes, she checked in yesterday for a weekend stay. Is there a problem?" "No problem at all. I'm just curious how she's affording this. These rooms are still $400 per night." The manager looked uncomfortable. Actually, her reservation was made through a discount travel site. She's in one of our smallest rooms at a heavily reduced rate, about $400 per night. It looks like it might be an anniversary trip based on the booking notes. Something occurred to me. Madison and Preston's anniversary was in April, and this was probably their first trip since their financial collapse. They were trying to recapture some of their old lifestyle, even though they clearly couldn't afford it. Part of me wanted to have them kicked out, to give them a taste of the humiliation they'd given me, to show them how it felt to be excluded and embarrassed. But then I thought about what Grandma had taught me about character and integrity, and being better than the people who hurt you. I called the front desk manager back. "I want to upgrade their room to a suite at no additional charge. Don't tell them who authorized it. Just say it's a complimentary anniversary upgrade. And send a bottle of champagne to their room with a note that says, 'Congratulations on your anniversary. May you build a future based on authentic love rather than material wealth.'" Management. The manager looked confused, but agreed to handle it. I left the resort before Madison could see me, but I heard later from the staff that she cried when she received the upgrade and the champagne. She apparently asked multiple times who had authorized it, but the staff maintained they couldn't disclose that information per my instructions. I didn't do it for her. I did it for me. To prove to myself that I was better than the pettiness and cruelty I'd experienced. To show that success doesn't require grinding people into the ground. To demonstrate that you can hold people accountable for their actions, while still maintaining your own humanity. Daniel asked me about it when I got home. "Why did you do something nice for them after everything they did to you?" "Because I'm not them. I never want to become them. They spent years trying to make me feel small and worthless, and if I retaliate with the same cruelty, then they've won in a different way. They've turned me into someone I don't want to be." He smiled and kissed my forehead. "This is why your grandmother chose you. Not because you're perfect, but because you understand what actually matters." He was right. Grandma didn't leave me her empire because I was wealthy or successful or better than everyone else. She left it to me because I understood that how you treat people defines who you are far more than how much money you have. It's been 14 months since that ski resort incident now, and my life has changed in ways I never imagined. I'm still teaching because I love it, but I'm also learning the hotel business from Grandma and preparing to eventually take over when she decides to retire. Daniel and I bought a beautiful house, nothing ostentatious. Just a comfortable 4-bedroom home in a good neighborhood where we hope to raise kids someday. We're expecting our first child in July, a little girl. Grandma is absolutely thrilled and has already started planning her granddaughter's future, though she's promised to let us parent our own way without interference. Madison sent a text message last month, just 4 words. "Congratulations on the baby." I responded with 2 words. "Thank you." Maybe someday we'll rebuild some kind of relationship, but it would have to be on completely different terms than before. Based on mutual respect rather than hierarchy. Based on genuine care rather than obligation. My parents reached out through Daniel's parents asking if there was any chance of reconciliation. I told them I'd consider it if they were willing to attend family therapy and genuinely work on understanding how their favoritism affected me throughout my life. They haven't responded yet. I'm not holding my breath. But here's what I've learned through all of this. Family isn't defined by blood or obligation or guilt. Family is defined by how people treat each other, how they show up during difficult times, how they celebrate successes without jealousy, and how they offer support without conditions. Daniel's family has become more of a family to me than my biological relatives ever were. Grandma taught me that you can't control how other people treat you, but you can absolutely control how you respond. You can choose bitterness or growth. You can choose revenge or boundaries. You can choose to become like the people who hurt you, or you can choose to become someone better. I chose better. And that choice, more than any inheritance or business, success or financial security, is what I'm most proud of. Madison thought she was teaching me a lesson that Christmas when she excluded me from the resort. She thought she was putting me in my place, showing me where I ranked in the family hierarchy, demonstrating her superiority. Instead, she accidentally taught me the most valuable lesson of my life: that people who need to make others feel small are actually revealing their own insecurity and emptiness. Their cruelty isn't about you. It's about them. And you don't have to accept their assessment of your worth. I'm worth so much more than they ever gave me credit for, not because of money or status, but because I chose to build a life based on authentic values rather than empty appearances. I chose a partner based on character rather than income. I chose a career based on meaning rather than salary. I chose integrity over image. And in the end, those choices led to everything they were desperately trying to achieve through their fake lifestyle: respect, security, genuine relationships, and lasting success. The irony is almost poetic. They destroyed their lives trying to appear successful while looking down on me for actually being successful in the ways that genuinely matter. That Christmas at the ski resort was supposed to be my humiliation, my moment of family rejection, proof that I didn't measure up. Instead, it became the catalyst for the most important transformation of my life. It forced me to see my family clearly for the first time. It pushed me to establish boundaries I should have set years earlier. It revealed who truly valued me and who simply used me. And ultimately, it gave me something far more valuable than a hotel suite or family acceptance. It gave me the absolute certainty that I'd chosen the right path all along. Sometimes, the greatest gift your enemies can give you is showing you exactly who they are. Madison gave me that gift when she excluded me from Christmas, and I'll be forever grateful, not to her, but for the clarity that came from her cruelty. My life isn't perfect. I still have challenging days at school. Daniel and I still worry about normal things like mortgage payments and car repairs and whether we're saving enough for retirement. We still have arguments about whose turn it is to do dishes, or why he didn't call the plumber like he said he would. But those ordinary problems feel like blessings compared to the toxic dysfunction I escaped. I have a husband who loves me unconditionally, not for what I can provide, but for who I am. I have a grandmother who saw my worth when my parents couldn't. I have meaningful work that makes a difference in students' lives. I have financial security that I built through years of careful decisions. And I have the unshakable knowledge that I became successful by being exactly who I always was, not by pretending to be someone else. Madison is still working at that dental office. My parents are still struggling in their tiny apartment. Preston is still stressed about money every single day. And while I don't take pleasure in their suffering, I also don't feel guilty about their circumstances. They created this situation through years of choices, and they're experiencing the natural consequences of those choices. That's not cruelty. That's reality. The same reality that millions of people deal with every day, without wealthy relatives to bail them out. They're finally learning what most people know from the beginning: that you have to earn your way through life, that appearances don't pay bills, and that treating people poorly eventually catches up with you. I hope they learn from this experience. I hope they develop empathy and humility and gratitude. I hope they eventually understand what Grandma was trying to teach them about values and integrity and character. But whether they learn or not isn't my responsibility. My responsibility is to my own family now, the one I'm creating with Daniel. The one that will be based on love and respect and treating people with basic human dignity. This Christmas, we'll celebrate at our house with Grandma, Daniel's parents, and maybe some friends who've become like family. There will be laughter and good food and genuine warmth. There will be modest gifts exchanged, nothing extravagant, just thoughtful tokens of appreciation. There will be gratitude for what we have rather than resentment about what we lack. And somewhere across town, Madison and Preston will have their own Christmas in their small apartment with their daughters. I hope it's peaceful. I hope they're finding some happiness. I hope they're learning to appreciate what they have instead of mourning what they lost. But I won't be there, and that's okay. Some bridges burn for good reasons, and forcing a reconstruction doesn't make them stable. My family laughed at my husband and refused to accept us at Christmas. They thought they were excluding me from their celebration. Instead, they freed me from their dysfunction and gave me permission to build something better. And for that, despite everything, I suppose I should thank them. Their rejection became my liberation. Their cruelty revealed their character. Their punishment became my freedom. That's the real ending to this story. Not revenge, not bitterness, not even forgiveness necessarily, but simply moving forward into a better life they can no longer touch or diminish. They didn't destroy me by excluding me from Christmas. They accidentally set me free, and I've never been happier.